A single beam of moonlight slices across the hallway floor of the Westcott mansion. Ambrose Westcott, unable to sleep, tiptoes in socks over the gleaming wooden boards. It's almost 2 a.m., and the usual hush of his upscale suburb feels strangely ominous tonight, like the hush before thunder. He pauses outside Verina's room. There's a soft glow beneath her door, accompanied by a muffled voice. At first, he thinks she's talking to a friend. Yet something about that voice stops him in his tracks. It's male, and it sounds older than any friend of hers, Roderick Davenport. He's certain of it because he's heard that self-assured tone at social functions, a tone that always set his nerves on edge. Pressing his ear to the door, Ambrose hears snatches of conversation. "I've got everything in place," Roderick says, his voice low yet excited. "We'll finalize it after Chicago." Verina murmurs a response he can't quite catch, followed by a sharp giggle. Ambrose's heart drums as adrenaline surges. What the hell is he doing, whispering to my daughter at 2 a.m.? He moves to knock, but the door suddenly cracks open an inch, flooding the hallway with the glow from Verina's bedside lamp. She stands there in designer pajamas, phone in hand, eyes wide with a mix of annoyance and surprise. "Dad, seriously?" she huffs. "It's late." "Who were you talking to?" Ambrose demands, glancing over her shoulder. The bedroom behind her is a swirl of pastel pillows and pinned-up selfies. No sign of anyone else, but his gut says the danger is still here in the phone, in her expression. Verina narrows her eyes. "No one you need to worry about," she replies. "Just some friend from out of town." He hears a sudden beep from the phone as if a call has just disconnected. Before he can push further, Marina Westcott appears at the end of the hallway, wrapped in a silk robe the color of champagne. Her perfectly blow-dried hair spills down her shoulders and her eyes snap with irritation. "Ambrose," she says quietly, sounding more like a reprimand than a greeting. "You're scaring Verina. Can we please go back to bed?" "I heard a man's voice," Ambrose insists, speaking through clenched teeth. "It sounded a lot like Roderick." Marina's smile is all performance, bright and unyielding. "You must be imagining things. Roderick Davenport is a financial consultant, sweetheart, not Verina's friend. Let's not jump to wild conclusions." He knows that's not a denial. It's a sidestep. Instead of continuing the argument, Ambrose steps back. Verina slams her door shut with a dramatic sigh, and Marina touches his arm, her fingers as cold as the hallway tiles. The faint scent of an expensive perfume clings to her robe. "You really need to trust me," she whispers, ignoring the tension in his jaw. "All this stress about work, about the new contract in Chicago, it's affecting you." She leads him down the hall, away from Verina's door. "You should rest." He wants to protest, to demand an explanation, but the clock on the wall chimes softly. He pictures the enormous construction deal waiting for him to finalize in just a few days. The city government needs his presence in Chicago, and Westcott Construction is counting on him. The last thing he wants right now is a domestic dispute that might derail everything he's worked for. Inside the master bedroom, he notices Marina's phone on the nightstand, a text notification from an unknown number. She quickly flips the screen face down. An uneasy chill crawls along Ambrose's spine. Too many secrets tonight, he thinks, even as he drops onto the bed, feeling suddenly bone-tired. The storm hasn't arrived yet, but he can sense the thunder rumbling on the horizon of his life. He closes his eyes, a whirlwind of questions in his mind. Why was Roderick's voice in Verina's room? What final plan are they discussing? Are those random receipts he found last week, hotel stays, and extravagant charges somehow connected? He hears Marina in the bathroom, the tap running. He wants to call out to her, to tear down this new barrier that's suddenly between them. But a sense of dread keeps him silent. His pulse won't slow. That voice in Verina's room felt like a harbinger of something dark and twisted, seeping into their household. His final thought before drifting into uneasy sleep is an echo of Roderick's words. "We'll finalize it after Chicago." An itch in his heart warns him that this is more than a simple phone call. Something bigger is at stake, something that could shatter the life he's built. But tonight, he can do nothing except wait for morning. The night before the storm lingers, thick with unanswered questions Ambrose suspects he might regret asking. The next morning greets Ambrose with bright sunlight streaming through the tall windows of the Westcott Mansion's dining room. A row of French doors opens onto a manicured lawn. Gardeners trim hedges at a distance, while a housekeeper quietly arranges fresh flowers on a sideboard. Despite the placid suburban scene, Ambrose's insides churn with unresolved tension from last night. He seats himself at the long dining table, facing a plate of fresh fruit and scrambled eggs. The aroma of bacon drifts in from the kitchen. Marina enters, phone in one hand, a stylish yoga mat tucked under her other arm. Dressed in form-fitting athletic gear, she looks every bit the image of an affluent socialite ready for a morning class. She sets her phone on the table, ignoring him in favor of checking the time on her watch. "I'm running late," she says, barely glancing at him. "I'll grab a juice to go." Ambrose sips coffee. He wants to bring up last night's phone call, but the moment feels wrong. Her quick, practiced smile and the bright daylight almost manage to bury the memory. Almost. From the staircase, Verena appears in an oversized hoodie and leggings, hair in a high ponytail. "Mom, can I borrow your silver cuff bracelet?" she asks, thumb tapping out messages on her phone. "I want it for a photo shoot I'm doing later." Marina waves a hand. "Sure, it's on my vanity, but be careful with it. It's expensive." Verena plops down across from Ambrose, scrolling through her feed. She glances up with that same half-contemptuous look he's grown used to. "Morning," she says, but it barely registers as a greeting. "Sleep well?" Ambrose tries a neutral question. He notices a faint smudge beneath her eye, as if she didn't get enough rest. Or maybe it's just the lighting. "Fine." She shrugs. "I was up late, reading." Her phone buzzes, and her lips curl in a small smile as she quickly replies. He wonders if it's Roderick again, but stays silent. Push too hard, and she'll shut me out completely, a painful lesson he's learned over the past year. Marina re-enters with a smoothie cup, glances at them both, and exhales. "Ambrose, about the Chicago trip, when do you leave?" He sets down his coffee. "I'm heading out on Wednesday. There's a critical negotiation for the city's waterfront redevelopment project." Verena's gaze flicks to him. "You're gone for how many days?" He senses an odd tone in her question anticipation, almost excitement. "Likely 3 or 4, he says. "Maybe less if everything goes smoothly." Verena's phone buzzes again, and she smirks at the screen. "Right." Marina steps forward, setting her smoothie on the table. "Everything's just normal, Ambrose. You need to focus on the new contract, not silly rumors or late-night suspicions." There's a mild scolding in her tone, like a parent talking to a jumpy child. "Now, I really do have to go. My yoga group's waiting." She breezes out of the room. Verena follows soon after, grabbing a croissant as she heads upstairs. Ambrose remains alone with his breakfast, thoughts swirling. He's not sure if he's imagining conspiracies, but the memory of that voice, Roderick's voice, linger like an echo. As he stands to collect his briefcase and head for the office, a small slip of paper falls from Marina's phone case, left behind on the table. He picks it up, a receipt from an upscale hotel downtown dated 2 weeks ago for a suite booking. The name on the receipt is smudged, but it's definitely not under Marina's usual membership, or under his. He folds it carefully, pocketing it as 1,000 uneasy questions pulse through his mind. With a resigned sigh, he heads out, stepping into the bright morning. The meticulously kept lawns and the sunshine do nothing to ease the knot in his chest. Masks of family life may appear perfect, but beneath them, cracks are forming, and he suspects he's only glimpsed the first fracture. By mid-afternoon, Ambrose is in his executive office at Westcott Construction. The downtown skyline looms beyond the glass windows. From here, he usually admires how far he's come, a kid from a cramped apartment building, now overseeing major projects. But today, all he feels is a slow burn of apprehension. Baron Jeffries, the CFO, knocks softly and steps in, files tucked under one arm. With a stocky build and gray hair at the temples, Baron radiates an air of gentle competence, yet his expression is uneasy. "Ambrose," Baron begins, lowering his voice as he closes the door. "We have a situation. There have been some unusual withdrawal requests from your personal accounts. I was alerted because they're large sums, tens of thousands of dollars at a time." Ambrose stiffens. "Who requested them?" Marina? Baron nods. Yes, or at least it's her signature. Your joint account, plus a couple that are exclusively in your name. All the paperwork is signed under a power of attorney. But this is the first time she's moved such amounts without you present. A headache throbs at the base of Ambrose's skull. He rubs his temples. Could it be a mistake? Something for the house? Or an investment? Baron's gaze flickers with doubt. I've worked with you a long time. This pattern doesn't match normal expenses. It's money going out to, let's call them, questionable accounts. We can dig deeper if you'd like. Yes, Ambrose says quietly. I'd like that. Baron hesitates. Are you all right? You look tense. And your wife, she's never done anything like this before, correct? Ambrose forces a tight smile. I'm fine, Baron. Probably overthinking. Keep this between us and let me know what you find. Once Baron leaves, Ambrose slumps into his chair, mind racing. Another crack, bigger this time, in the facade of his marriage. He thinks about last week's charity gala, how Roderick Davenport had appeared by Marina's side the moment Ambrose stepped away to greet city officials. Roderick was all polished charm, a reassuring presence for wealthy patrons, yet so skilled at infiltration. Ambrose had assumed it was just business advice. Now he wonders if the man is playing a more personal game. An hour later, Ambrose leaves for a high-profile fundraiser at a downtown hotel. He spots Marina in a sleek black dress, conversing in a small group. Standing next to her is Verena, sipping sparkling water and wearing a stylish cocktail dress that seems far too grown-up for her age. And there, on Marina's other side, is Roderick handsome in a tailored suit, talking animatedly about exciting investment prospects. Ambrose approaches. The instant Roderick notices him, there's an almost imperceptible flicker in his gaze, something like challenge or victory. Marina gives Ambrose a quick, superficial kiss on the cheek. Verena barely acknowledges him, focusing on her phone. Roderick extends a hand with a smooth grin. Mr. Westcott, always a pleasure. His handshake is firm and quick. Marina was just telling me about your upcoming Chicago trip. Very ambitious project you're handling. Ambrose's gut knots. Yes, it's an important one, he says, forcing politeness. You seem well informed. Roderick's smile widens. I like to stay involved with all my clients' developments. Helps me give the best financial advice. Clients. The word hangs between them. Before Ambrose can respond, a new speaker takes the stage, drawing applause and guiding everyone's attention to the front. But the tension doesn't lessen. It intensifies, a quiet storm gathering force. When the event ends, Ambrose catches one last glimpse of Roderick drifting closer to Marina and Verena, his hand momentarily resting on Marina's arm in a gesture too familiar for comfort. Verena glances over, noticing Ambrose's stare, then lifts her glass in a mocking salute. His mind races with questions. He needs proof. He needs clarity. The seeds of betrayal have been planted. He can feel them growing like weeds, choking the life he once knew. Yet a part of him still hopes it's a misunderstanding, still clings to the idea that his wife and daughter wouldn't conspire with an outsider against him. The morning sun feels harsh the next day as Ambrose sits in the living room, scanning the last pieces of paperwork for the big Chicago deal. Stacks of documents spread across the coffee table, contracts that could secure Westcott Construction's future. The phone calls from the city council and potential investors have been non-stop. Marina descends the grand staircase, dressed in an elegant blouse and pencil skirt. Her eyes flick to the paperwork. You're leaving today? He nods. The negotiations can't wait. The city wants to finalize details for the new waterfront redevelopment. Her mouth forms a polite smile, but he notices the tension around her eyes. Of course. Make sure everything goes smoothly. We can't afford any setbacks. Ambrose exhales. Marina, you'd tell me if something was going on, right? Something that might affect us? The accounts, the receipts. If there's an explanation, I want to hear it. Her features go rigid. Are we really doing this now? I have a meeting with a consultant. She stops herself, clearing her throat. With Roderick. Strictly financial planning, Ambrose. Don't be paranoid. He wants to push, to mention the receipts, the late-night call. Instead, he forces a nod. All right, I'll finish packing. Upstairs, Verena's door is ajar. She's frowning at the contents of a suitcase on her bed, an array of designer clothes. She barely looks up when Ambrose peeks in. "You going somewhere?" he asks, confusion creeping into his voice. She shrugs. "Might stay with a friend for a while if you're off in Chicago. Mom said it was fine." He steels himself. "Verena, is there anything you want to tell me? About Davenport? You do realize he's not exactly—" Her gaze sharpens. "Not exactly what? A decent person? Or maybe just not your idea of a decent person? He's been more supportive of Mom's plans than you ever have." Before Ambrose can respond, she slams the suitcase shut. "I'm not a little girl anymore. I don't need your approval." He stands in silence, her words stinging. Downstairs, Marina calls out that Roderick just arrived. Ambrose hears Roderick's voice drifting through the foyer, a low murmur that grates at his nerves. It's enough. Ambrose silently gathers his briefcase and keys. He can't handle the tension building in this house. "I'm going," he mutters to no one in particular. "I'll be back in a few days." No goodbyes come from upstairs. Marina offers a brisk nod in the foyer, barely glancing at him. Roderick stands by her side, smiling with that subtle smugness. Ambrose tries to ignore the pit in his stomach as he steps out into the bright morning. The swirl of deals, finances, and conspiracies follows him like a dark shadow. Pulling out of the driveway, he takes one last look at the grand front doors of his home. It doesn't feel like home anymore, he thinks, driving toward the airport. He's determined to focus on the Chicago project, determined to secure Westcott Construction's future. Yet a gnawing fear lurks at the edge of his thoughts. A gray sky hangs low over Chicago's skyline as Ambrose Westcott steps out of the towering municipal building. He clutches a slim briefcase containing the newly signed waterfront redevelopment contract, an agreement that promises a groundbreaking future for Westcott Construction. The early evening air tastes of ozone, a hint of oncoming rain crackling in the breeze. He quickly bids farewell to a project coordinator from the city's council, then hurries toward his rental car. Fat drops begin to fall as soon as he pulls onto Lakeshore Drive, transforming into a steady, drumming downpour. It's the kind of rain that renders the windshield wipers nearly useless, the heavy beat making visibility a constant struggle. Ambrose checks his phone at a red light. A part of him hopes for a supportive text from Marina, or even a casual message from Verena, some semblance of normalcy. Instead, there's only a short email from Baron Jeffries, congratulating him on the deal and reminding him to stay safe. With a tight sigh, Ambrose tosses the phone onto the passenger seat and refocuses on the slick road. Night descends faster than usual under the storm's blanket. Streetlights gleam off puddles, every reflection fracturing into shifting shards of gold. Ambrose tries the radio, hoping for company in the form of local news or soothing music, but static cuts through the speakers, adding another layer of tension. He regrets not staying in Chicago overnight. Some voice inside him insisted he hurry back, maybe to get clarity on whatever is going on at home. He grips the steering wheel, remembering Roderick Davenport's smug expression at the fundraiser, the phone call he overheard in Verena's room, the suspicious financial transactions Baron mentioned. I have to confront them, he thinks. Whatever's happening, I'm going to figure it out and fix it. The rain intensifies, hammering the car's roof like 1,000 tiny fists. Lightning forks across the sky. It illuminates the road for a split second, just enough for Ambrose to glimpse a semi-truck swerving in the next lane, water spraying from its massive tires. His heart lurches. The truck loses traction, veering wildly. He slams the brakes, adrenaline spiking, but it's too late. A tremendous crash erupts, metal against metal, the windshield exploding in a spiderweb of cracks. Time warps, each terrifying second stretching out as the car spins, hydroplaning across lanes. Ambrose's chest knocks against the steering wheel. The shriek of twisted steel assaults his ears before everything dissolves into darkness. Harsh fluorescent lights greet Ambrose as he drifts back to consciousness in a hospital room. Tubes and wires cling to him like a grotesque imitation of vines. His head pounds, and every breath sends pain rippling through his chest. A tall figure steps in. Dr. Whitfield, a calm-faced man in his 50s wearing a crisp lab coat. "You're lucky to be alive, Mr. Westcott," the doctor says, studying a clipboard. "Your left femur is shattered, a fractured pelvis, cracked ribs, and a mild concussion. We've stabilized you, but there's a tough road ahead." Ambrose's mouth feels desert dry. He croaks out, How long have I? 2 days since the accident, Dr. Whitfield answers. We had to perform emergency surgery on your leg. You'll need extensive rehabilitation. Before Ambrose can question him further, Marina Westcott breezes into the room in a tailored coat, a dramatic scarf flung over her shoulder. Verena trails behind, eyes glued to her phone. Instantly, the atmosphere grows colder. Marina's lips form a polite smile. Ambrose, thank heavens you're awake. But there's no warmth in her eyes. She places a store-bought bouquet on the bedside table, the plastic wrapping still intact. Verena glances up briefly, frowns at the hospital machines, then looks back at her phone. Guess you really messed yourself up, she mutters. We thought well, never mind. Ambrose swallows, his throat tight. He can't recall the last time she looked him in the eye. I'm okay, he manages to say, though the pain throbbing in his leg contradicts his claim. Marina steps around the bed, carefully avoiding the IV drip. The doctors say you'll be out of commission for a long while, Ambrose. I've taken measures to help keep the household and finances running smoothly. She hesitates, then adds, including signing a temporary power of attorney. His mind seizes on that phrase. Power of attorney? For what? A slight sniff. To manage what you can't at the moment. Don't worry, everything's under control. She gestures to Verena, who shrugs non-committally. We've had to move some funds, talk to the bank. I don't recall consenting to that, he says, adrenaline spiking despite the ache. And it's only been 2 days? Marina's poised exterior cracks just a fraction. Do you think I enjoy this? Dealing with your company headaches while you're lying here? She says, voice clipped. I'm just doing what needs to be done. Verena pipes up, her tone bored. Things change, Dad. That's life, you know. She pockets her phone and looks him over with detached curiosity, like he's an exhibit in a museum. Guess you'll be kind of useless for a while, huh? Her words cut deeper than the physical pain. Ambrose tries to steady himself, but every muscle screams. He glances toward Dr. Whitfield, who shifts uncomfortably, sensing the tension. The doctor quietly excuses himself to update the nurses. Marina checks her watch. We can't stay long. Roderick has arranged some important meetings on our behalf. She flips her hair over one shoulder. Take care, Ambrose. We'll come back soon. He wants to protest, wants to ask how they can be so distant. But his throat feels raw. Verena barely says goodbye while Marina's heels click out into the hallway. The door shuts with a hollow finality, leaving him trapped in the relentless beeping of medical monitors and the sting of betrayal echoing in his mind. Daylight in the hospital corridor feels sterile and unforgiving. Ambrose drifts in and out of consciousness, half seduced by the morphine that dulls his agony. Fragments of conversations flit by nurses updating charts, a distant argument in the hallway, the squeak of a rolling cart. At one point, a nurse named Cynthia helps him sip water. You've had more visitors, she murmurs, checking his IV line. Your wife and a gentleman. I told them you were heavily sedated, but they insisted on some paperwork. What kind of paperwork? Ambrose's words slur slightly, but a shard of panic pierces him. Cynthia's gaze shifts, uneasy. Financial documents. They said you'd signed them. Looked official. They left in a hurry. He tries to sit up, pain surging through his battered torso. Something is very wrong here. Cynthia, could you call Baron Jeffries for me? He's my CFO. The nurse nods gently, though Ambrose is unsure if the call will go through. Hours blend into a morphine-fogged tapestry. He dreams of Roderick Davenport leaning over him, whispering about accounts, money siphoned away. In another delirious moment, he glimpses Verena by the foot of the bed, texting with an exasperated sigh. She looks at him as though he's an obstacle. He's never going to recover the same, she murmurs, voice echoing in the gloom. Mom says we'll handle everything. When he tries to speak, the words dissolve. He's powerless, pinned by intravenous lines and fresh incisions. The more he fights to stay conscious, the more fatigue pins him back. One afternoon, as he finally manages some clarity, Marina and Roderick stand near the doorway, their voices hushed but urgent. Got everything transferred, Marina says. No loose ends. Roderick's smile is a razor's edge. Time is critical. The sooner we finalize everything, the less risk. Ambrose musters a weak protest. You can't do this. Roderick's eyes flick to Ambrose, cold and unreadable. Marina hushes Ambrose with a disinterested wave. You can't even sign your name properly in this state, she says. Just rest. He tries to argue, but his energy fails. Another wave of sedation drags him under. Their scheme unfolds, unstoppable, while he's trapped in a hospital bed. It's a surreal nightmare. Part of him wonders if, upon waking, it'll all vanish. But the next time he surfaces, a nurse informs him that he's being discharged. Your family requested an early release. They said they've arranged a specialized rehabilitation for you, she explains. Confusion and dread swirl in Ambrose's chest. He knows he's far from ready for discharge. Why is Marina rushing this? He has no choice. He's in no state to fight the paperwork or physically resist. As an orderly wheels him out, Ambrose catches a final glimpse of the sterile corridors, the antiseptic lights. This is all wrong, he thinks. Deep inside, he fears it's about to get a whole lot worse. The ride away from the hospital is a blur of passing storefronts and dreary skies. Marina drives in tense silence, knuckles pale against the steering wheel. Verena sits in the back, tapping away on her phone, ignoring Ambrose's labored breathing in the passenger seat. He clutches a hospital-issued cane across his lap, every bump of the car jolting pain through his healing bones. A sign for Flora's Diner appears in the distance, a small neon flicker on the side of a two-lane highway. Without warning, Marina veers into the gravel parking lot, cutting the engine. The diner stands lonely, wrapped in twilight, fluorescent light buzzing in the windows. Bathroom break, Marina announces brusquely. I need coffee for the drive. Verena steps out first, slamming her door. Ambrose's heart pounds. Something about their demeanor sets his nerves on edge. They're too stiff, too purposeful. Marina pops open his door. Come on, she says, not meeting his eyes. With great effort, Ambrose manages to slide out, leaning heavily on the cane. Even that short movement leaves him gasping, beads of sweat forming at his temple. The diner's front door dings as they walk in. A handful of truckers turn to glance at them, then return to their meals. Flora Addison, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, approaches from behind the counter. Welcome, she says. Have a seat anywhere. Marina chooses a booth tucked away near the back. She and Verena exchange a quick, tense look. Ambrose eases onto the vinyl seat, every muscle protesting. The fluorescent lights highlight the pallor in his face. Verena's phone buzzes and she smirks. Mom, hurry up, she whispers. He's waiting for us. Something about that statement rattles Ambrose. He no doubt Roderick. Before he can gather the breath to question them, Marina stands. I'll get something to go, she says flatly. Verena, stay with him. Then she disappears toward the counter, leaving Ambrose and Verena alone. Verena sets her phone aside, eyes flicking over Ambrose's fragile state. She looks troubled for a brief moment, as if guilt tugs at the corners of her mind. Then her features harden. This is best for everyone, she mumbles. What are you talking about? Ambrose's voice cracks. Her gaze snaps up, cold once again. You're not the man you used to be, she says, matter-of-fact. You're a wreck. You think I want to drag around a crippled father. She forces out a laugh, but it sounds hollow. Mom and I, we have plans. A future. We can't let you ruin it. Stunned, Ambrose grips the cane until his knuckles whiten. Verena, he breathes. I'm still your father. She averts her eyes. Not really. Marina returns, pressing a takeout coffee cup to her lips. All set, she announces, throwing a few bills onto the table. Come on, Verena. They both rise. Ambrose tries to stand, but Marina places a firm hand on his shoulder. No, you stay. The finality in her tone crushes him. She tugs the cane away from his grasp, her expression a mixture of impatience and disdain. We can't afford dead weight. His brain spins. You can't leave me here, he gasps, voice trembling with disbelief. Verena avoids his gaze, taking a step back. Marina rummages through Ambrose's jacket pocket, removing his wallet and phone. She meets his eyes for a split second, her lips twisting in a smile that holds no warmth. It's done, Ambrose. Roderick's helping us with everything, financials included. You're unnecessary now. Ambrose feels the world tilt. He wants to scream, but shock wraps its fingers around his throat. In seconds, they're gone, pushing out of the diner into the dim parking lot, throwing his suitcase to the gravel. The engine of Marina's car roars. Headlights sweep across the windows, then fade. A trembling hush falls over the booth. The other diners stare awkwardly. Flora Addison steps forward cautiously, a mix of concern and compassion on her face. "Are you all right, sir?" she asks gently. Tears burn at the corners of Ambrose's eyes, though he refuses to let them fall. He's never felt such betrayal, such raw humiliation. His leg throbs, his heart pounds. Abandoned. That single word pounds in his mind like a drum. With great effort, he meets Flora's gaze. "No," he manages, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not all right. I need help." Flora nods solemnly, moving closer, her voice soft. "We'll get you taken care of." She signals a nearby server to bring water. Around them, the low murmur of conversation resumes, as though the world keeps spinning even when everything in Ambrose's life has ground to a brutal halt. In that fluorescent-lit diner, overshadowed by heartbreak and disbelief, Ambrose Westcott realizes he's lost nearly everything he thought he could trust. But he still breathes, and in the deepest corner of his wounded pride, a spark of resolve flickers. If his wife and daughter thought they could discard him like yesterday's news, they might soon discover how wrong they were. A hushed morning light filters through the blinds of Flora's diner as Ambrose Westcott wakes from an uneasy sleep in a small back room. His entire body aches, but at least the immediate shock has faded. The faint aroma of coffee and scrambled eggs drifts from the kitchen, stirring a hollow warmth in his stomach. When he eases the door open, he finds Flora Addison bustling behind the counter, dishing out fresh biscuits to a pair of regulars. She spots Ambrose and waves him over with a gentle smile. "How you holding up, Mr. Westcott?" she asks, her tone kind but not pitying. He musters a weak grin. "I've been better," he admits, leaning heavily on the cane he salvaged from the hospital. "And please, call me Ambrose." Flora's eyes flick to his bandaged leg. "Ambrose, I was real worried last night. You still look pale as a ghost. Let me bring you breakfast before we talk about next steps." He nods, grateful for her practical kindness. While she prepares a plate, a new figure steps inside the diner, a broad-shouldered man in casual clothes, moving with quiet confidence. He scans the room, then locks eyes with Ambrose, a cautious smile forming. "Hey, old friend," the man says, voice brimming with both concern and relief. "Long time. Flora told me you needed me." Ambrose's throat tightens. "Garrett Finch. You came." Garrett crosses to him, arms extended for a gentle half-hug, mindful of Ambrose's injuries. "Flora tracked me down. Said your wife and daughter left you here." He rubs a hand over his buzz-cut hair, clearly appalled. "I never expected—" "It's a nightmare," Ambrose says, grimacing from pain as he sits in a booth. "But I have to deal with it." He gestures to the seat across from him, and Garrett slides in, face etched with concern. Flora returns with a plate of eggs, toast, and crispy bacon, setting it in front of Ambrose. "Eat up, then talk," she insists, glancing at Garrett. "He'll be better off once he's got some protein in him." Ambrose digs in, his appetite dulled by the churn of betrayal but his body screaming for sustenance. Each bite helps ground him. He explains in hushed tones how Marina and Verena orchestrated his abandonment, presumably under Roderick Davenport's manipulations. Garrett listens intently, jaw clenched in anger. "You were always the steady one, Ambrose," Garrett says softly, swirling a cup of black coffee. "Never thought your family would turn on you like this." His gaze flickers with an old loyalty. "I know a place off the grid, quiet where you can recover without them tracking you down. I can get a doctor to assist with your rehab, only if you want." Ambrose exhales, relief laced with lingering doubt. "I'd be in your debt, but truthfully, Garrett, I don't see another way." "That's settled then," Garrett replies with a firm nod. "Finish your meal, and we'll get you out of here." He pats Ambrose's shoulder gently, eyes gleaming with the promise of protection. Flora's soft voice interjects. "I'll keep your secret. If Marina or that slick banker come snooping, I won't tell him a thing." She hesitates, leaning forward. "Just take care of yourself, Ambrose. Nobody deserves what happened to you. Touched by her compassion, Ambrose thanks her. Outside, the morning sun illuminates a battered sedan Garrett borrowed from a friend. With Flora's help, Ambrose limps his way to the passenger seat, the simple act of bending into the car flaring every muscle he's injured. He bites back a groan, determined not to appear weak. As Garrett starts the engine, Ambrose stares at the diner's neon sign one last time, Flora's Diner, the place he was unceremoniously abandoned. The memory still stings like salt in a wound, but there's a faint ember of resolve burning in his chest. They threw him away. Now he'll find a way to rise again. Hours later, the car bounces along a rutted dirt road flanked by tall pines. Garrett Finch keeps a careful eye on Ambrose, who's paler than usual. The pain meds from the hospital are wearing off, and every jolt reminds him of the twisted metal and shattered glass that nearly ended his life. At last, a modest log cabin emerges from the trees. Smoke drifts from a thin chimney, hinting at a warm interior. Garrett helps Ambrose out, supporting him under one arm. An older woman steps onto the porch, graying hair in a tidy bun, wearing a no-nonsense cardigan. Her eyes assess Ambrose clinically. "Dr. Whitfield?" Ambrose asks, surprised at her appearance. He'd expected a stern older man, not a seasoned female physician. She nods. "Just call me Whitfield. Garrett mentioned your injuries. Let's get you settled. Then we'll discuss your therapy." Her tone is brisk, but not unkind. Inside, the cabin is all rustic charm. A crackling fireplace, shelves lined with practical supplies. Dr. Whitfield leads Ambrose to a small bedroom where the bed is set with firm pillows and fresh linens. She runs a quick evaluation, checking bandages and reflexes. Her touch is efficient, though Ambrose can't help but flinch at the tender spots. "You've had extensive surgery in your hip and leg," Whitfield says, fastening a brace around his thigh. "Rehabilitation will be grueling. If you skip exercises, you'll pay for it in permanent weakness." Garrett stands nearby, arms folded. "I'll make sure he doesn't slack." Whitfield arches a brow. "Just be prepared for some long days, Mr. Westcott, and even longer nights." After she leaves them to talk privately, Garrett draws a chair close to the bed. "I meant what I said, Ambrose. You saved my life back in our old project days. I'm here to return the favor." Ambrose glances at the flickering fire. "I appreciate it." He hesitates, the weight of betrayal pressing in. "I can't let Roderick run off with my company. Or let Marina—" He stops, blinking back bitterness. "I have to fight back." A faint grin tugs at Garrett's mouth. "That's the Ambrose I remember. We'll figure this out. But first, you need your strength. You won't be winning any battles until you can stand on your own 2 feet without keeling over." Ambrose sighs, adjusting the brace. One step at a time. Dr. Whitfield soon returns with a set of resistance bands and a short list of daily stretches. "We start tomorrow morning at dawn. No excuses." Her straightforward manner is oddly reassuring, no pity, just a plan. That night, Ambrose lies in bed, leg propped on pillows as the cabin goes dark. Pain twinges with every movement, but his mind churns with images of Marina's callous expression, Verina's mocking gaze. He remembers the shock of being left in a diner, humiliated. The anger tastes sharp, fueling his determination. They treated him like dead weight. He'll show them just how alive he still is. Morning comes with a crisp bite in the air. A light frost dusts the pine needles outside. Ambrose grits his teeth as Dr. Whitfield puts him through a grueling series of stretches, coaxing range of motion from his damaged leg. Sweat beads on his forehead. Every time he thinks about giving up, the sting of betrayal flares anew, carrying him through the next painful rep. In the early afternoon, a knock at the cabin door announces Niall Connors, a wiry man with sharp features and a laptop bag slung over his shoulder. Garrett introduces him as his tech expert. Niall sets up at the cabin's dining table, pulling out an array of devices. "Your wife and this Roderick Davenport have gone to great lengths to hide financial moves," Niall says, tapping a keyboard. "But they slipped up. I found traces of accounts under a different name in the Caymans, and Roderick, well, he's used half a dozen aliases over the past 10 years. Ambrose steadies himself on the couch, heart racing. "So, he's a serial con artist?" Niall nods, pushing a small file folder toward Ambrose. Garrett and I compiled everything we could. Roderick served time under a different identity, fraud charges. He cut a deal, walked free, and vanished, rebranded himself as a wealthy wealth manager targeting women like Marina. Reading the documents, Ambrose's pulse thunders. The evidence is damning fake references, shell companies, a pattern of seducing and manipulating affluent clients. He must see my company as a jackpot, and Marina, she fell for it. Garrett frowns, exchanging a glance with Niall. It gets worse. He flips to a final page. We pulled some hospital records and DNA notes. Verena, she's not biologically your daughter. Marina was pregnant before she even met you. Ambrose's stomach sinks, the papers trembling in his hand. 17 years she let me believe Verena was mine. A wave of nausea hits him, not from physical injury, but from a lifetime of lies unraveling. 17 years. Everything shifts, tilts. He clenches a fist, breathing shakily. I tried to be a good father. Now I'm not even sure who she is anymore. Niall clears his throat. We're sorry, Ambrose, but you needed the truth. If we're going to build a strategy to protect your assets, nothing can be hidden. Silence settles in the cabin. The crackling fire seems deafening. Dr. Whitfield catches Ambrose's strained expression from across the room and strides over, concern in her eyes. You need rest. Stress will spike your blood pressure, slow your recovery. Ambrose nods absently, but rests is the last thing he wants to do. His world has imploded. The family he cherished is built on sand. The swirl of betrayal ignites something fierce in him, a hunger for justice, or maybe vengeance. Thank you, he finally murmurs, meeting Garrett's gaze. All of you, for showing me what I'm really up against. We can't let Roderick or Marina get away with this. Garrett places a hand on Ambrose's shoulder. We won't. But first, you heal. Let us handle the digging. When the time's right, you'll strike back with all the facts on your side. Ambrose exhales, a ragged breath. 17 years, he repeats, voice tinged with disbelief. Yet beneath that shock, a core of resolve hardens. If they thought discarding him was easy, they'd soon discover how dangerous an underestimated man could be. 3 days later, under Dr. Whitfield's stern guidance, Ambrose manages to stand and shuffle a short distance without collapsing. Each step is agony, but each victory, no matter how small, fans the fire in his chest. Garrett and Niall spend hours sifting through Roderick's digital footprint, quietly forming a plan. Bit by bit, Ambrose feels something he hasn't felt in days. Hope. Late afternoon sunlight filters through the pines, catching the dust motes in the cabin's main room. Ambrose sits in a worn armchair, laptop perched on his knee, while Garrett uses a secure phone line to connect him with Baron Jeffries, CFO of Westcott Construction. The call crackles to life. Ambrose? Baron's familiar voice breaks through. Good God, is that really you? Marina claimed you left some specialized rehab and vanished. She's pushing for more control of the company. I've been stalling, but... Ambrose's jaw tightens. I'm safe, Baron, but you already suspect what's happening. Marina and Roderick are after my assets. I need you to hold the line. No major transfers, no power handovers. Baron exhales, relieved. I knew something was off. Look, I'll do whatever it takes, but the board is getting restless. The media's picking up rumors you might be indicted on financial mismanagement. Roderick is spinning wild stories. Anger boils in Ambrose's gut. Then spin your own. Let them think I'm missing. Let them believe I'm not coming back. That'll make Roderick and Marina overconfident. Meanwhile, keep the genuine transactions locked down tight. Baron agrees resolutely. I'll handle it. Just promise me you're coming back soon. The company needs you, Ambrose. After the call, Garrett raises a brow. Interesting tactic. Let them think you've disappeared for good. Ambrose nods. If they believe I'm out of the picture, they'll drop their guard, make bigger mistakes. That's when we'll strike. As twilight deepens, another crucial call takes place, this time with Catherine Hayes, a district attorney Garrett trusts. Ambrose explains the broad strokes. Roderick's shady background, suspected fraud, missing funds. Hayes listens calmly, occasionally asking pointed questions. I can't promise immediate legal action, Hayes says, But if you've got real evidence and you're prepared to testify when the time comes, we can begin mapping out a strategy. I'm not in the business of civil squabbles, but I don't like con artists. We'll get you the evidence, Ambrose assures her, glancing at Niall's organized data piles. Just be ready to move when we confirm everything. They end the call, the cabin hushed except for the low crackle of firewood. Outside, crickets start their nightly chorus. Dr. Whitfield finishes tidying her medical gear, then shoots Ambrose a measured look. That's enough excitement. You need rest, or you'll undo all the physical progress you've made. For once, Ambrose doesn't argue. Exhaustion tugs at his eyelids, the day's achievements both physical and strategic leaving him drained. Garrett helps him into bed, while Niall quietly compiles the last bits of digital evidence. In the dim glow of a single lamp, Ambrose stares at the wooden ceiling beams. Everything has changed so fast: his marriage, his belief in family, the stability of his empire. But he feels a grim satisfaction knowing he's not fighting alone. Garrett, Barron, Niall, Hayes, they form a protective ring he never expected. He closes his eyes, letting the cabin's nocturnal hush wash over him. Tomorrow, he thinks, I'll train harder, I'll gather more proof, and I'll make sure Marina, Verena, and Roderick learn what it means to betray the wrong man. A cold drizzle settles over the city as Niall Connors steps off a bus near the mirrored high-rise of Avalon Banking Group. Dressed in a modest navy suit, wire-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, he blends seamlessly with the stream of office workers hurrying to beat the rain. In his hands is a small duffel bag containing specialized equipment today. He's no mere employee, but a carefully placed mole, orchestrated by Garrett Finch and Ambrose Westcott. Inside the lobby, polished floors reflect modern sculptures and a massive digital board listing financial updates. Niall strides to the security desk, a calm smile on his face. Thanks to falsified credentials Garrett procured, he's here as an IT security consultant hired to fortify Avalon's networks, the very network that Roderick Davenport uses to store his shady transactions. A guard scans Niall's ID badge. Welcome aboard. It's on the 12th floor, Mr. Connors. Niall thanks him and heads for the elevators. His nerves dance with adrenaline if anyone uncovers his real mission. It could destroy Ambrose's chances to reclaim his empire. But if he succeeds, they'll unearth incriminating files that prove Roderick's scheme. The elevator hums softly, opening into a corridor lined with frosted glass offices. He passes a few employees who barely glance at him, then finds an empty cubicle labeled Temp Security. He sets down his duffel and flexes his fingers over the keyboard, activating a nondescript laptop. With practiced efficiency, he navigates Avalon's intranet. It's layered with firewalls, but he spent weeks preparing. Let's see what our dear Mr. Davenport is hiding, he mutters under his breath. Meanwhile, across town, Ambrose and Garrett huddle in the cabin's makeshift command center, a battered table stacked with monitors and Garrett's phone. Dr. Whitfield has grudgingly allowed Ambrose short periods of walking with a cane, but every step brings a dull ache. Yet he insists on being present, eyes flicking from one screen to another. Garrett checks his watch. Niall should be logged in by now. Ambrose nods. He'll do it. We just have to trust him. If Roderick truly has set up an offshore funnel through Avalon, we'll have the smoking gun. In the bank, Niall sifts through user directories, scanning email logs under Roderick's profile. Carefully, he bypasses standard encryption. At one point, a coworker peeks over the cubicle divider. You the new guy? Yeah, Niall answers with a polite nod, tapping a blank document on screen as if he's drafting a security memo. Just setting up baseline tests. Might take a while. The coworker shrugs, apparently uninterested, and moves on. Heart thumping, Niall returns to the deeper network layers. After 20 minutes, he strikes gold, a hidden folder labeled with random characters. Inside are spreadsheets linking Roderick to suspicious transactions tagged with female clients' names. Niall grimaces. He's done this to multiple women, funneling money from their accounts into untraceable shells. Roderick's pattern emerges: seduce, gain power of attorney, siphon away fortunes. And now, he's doing it to Marina while eyeing Westcott Construction's large contracts. A nerve twinges in Niall's jaw at the callousness on display. Step by step, he copies every relevant file onto a secure drive. Then, employing a stealth script, he plants a back door so he can revisit the system remotely. This infiltration is just the start. The real trap requires more info. But for now, he's done enough. He zips up his duffel, logs off, and calmly heads for the elevator. On the street, the drizzle has turned into a downpour. Niall hurries under a canopy, calls Garrett on a burner phone, and says a single line, "Package secured." At the cabin, Ambrose exhales tension. He hadn't realized he was holding. "All right," he murmurs, meeting Garrett's eyes. This is the beginning of the end for Roderick Davenport. Night falls over the city as Baron Jeffries meets Catherine Hayes in a corner booth of a quiet, upscale restaurant. String lights twinkle outside, reflecting off polished wine glasses on linen-draped tables. For once, Baron's usual calm is replaced by an undercurrent of urgency. "Miss Hayes," he says, leaning forward, "we have reason to believe that Mr. Davenport is orchestrating large-scale fraud. My friend Ambrose would be the biggest victim, but there are others." Catherine Hayes, the district attorney with a reputation for being hard as nails, listens intently. She pushes a lock of dark hair behind her ear. "I've glanced at the preliminary documents Ambrose showed me. If you can get me definitive proof paper trails, verified logs, direct links to his offshore accounts, I can pursue charges." Baron steeples his fingers. "We have an inside man at Avalon collecting that proof as we speak, but we need to bide our time. If we act too soon, Davenport might slip away." Catherine nods. "Understood. But watch your back. Davenport might have friends in high places, especially if he's dealt with high-profile clients. I'll keep this under the radar until the case is bulletproof." Meanwhile, at the cabin, Ambrose is reviewing the first batch of data Niall extracted. Each line of code, each email excerpt, stands as evidence. He glances at Garrett, who's flipping through an itemized list of suspicious wires. Marina's name appears multiple times, indicating her complicity or at least cooperation. Ambrose's breath catches when he sees a newer folder labeled Westcott Construction Holdings. Within it are references to accounts tied to government contracts. "He's going after everything," Ambrose mutters, anger tightening his voice. "That snake is trying to carve up my entire business." Garrett sets a gentle hand on Ambrose's shoulder. "We'll catch him in the act. Hayes is on board. Baron's stalling any transaction attempts. We just have to coordinate the perfect sting." Later that evening, Ambrose receives a brief phone call from Baron. "I've spoken to Hayes. She's in. But we need to set Davenport up so his next big move is fully traceable. Something with a large sum so big, he can't resist." A determined light fills Ambrose's eyes. "Then let's give him a bait so tempting he'll show his hand completely." Morning sunlight washes over the city's skyline, but Ambrose sees it only through a flicker of newscasts on Garrett's laptop. 3 separate stations run stories about Ambrose Westcott's disappearance and rumored embezzlement. The words feel surreal, like a twisted reflection of the truth. A short-haired reporter stands outside Westcott Construction's headquarters. With CEO Ambrose Westcott missing for weeks, the board is under pressure to clarify allegations of misused funds. Speculation runs rampant about whether Westcott fled to avoid investigation. Garrett pauses the clip. Davenport's spinning the narrative, all right. Ambrose grips his cane, knuckles white. It's infuriating, but let him think I'm cowering somewhere, too scared to face the music. His leg twinges, a reminder of how close to death he came. He'll regret underestimating me. Baron calls mid-broadcast, voice tight with concern. The board is restless. Marina's petitioning the court, claiming you've absconded with federal money. She's trying to have you declared missing legally. Ambrose's jaw tightens. That can't happen. If a judge grants it, Roderick will seize control of my shares. "We're fighting it," Baron assures him. "But you need to show up soon or we need evidence proving this is a smear campaign." Ambrose exhales sharply. "Not yet. Give me time. Let them pile on the slander." In a downtown penthouse, Marina stands near a tall window, phone pressed to her ear. Verena lounges on a couch, checking social media. Roderick sips champagne, his suit immaculate as always. "He'll be declared absent soon," Marina says into the phone, speaking to a lawyer. "Yes, that means I gain administrative rights over his assets." "Fine, I'll sign any forms needed." Verena flicks her gaze to Roderick. "You sure Ambrose won't come back?" she asks, half smirking. I mean, the media's going crazy. Roderick sets the flute down. He was badly injured, and from what the rumors say, he's in no condition to fight back. Besides, I have connections to ensure any small attempt he makes fails. He raises an eyebrow at Verena. Focus on that server access, dear. We still need certain data about those government contracts. Verena nods, flipping open a laptop. Already on it. Their firewall's advanced, but I've got a back door. Mom, once we settle the legal part, do I get... Marina sighs. Yes, you'll have everything you need for a comfortable future, dear. Let's not drag it out. Roderick leans back with a satisfied grin. Soon, Westcott Construction will be ours to dissect. Back at the secluded cabin, Ambrose stands in the living room, leaning on his cane, face lined with determination. Dr. Whitfield eyes him critically as he walks across the room unaided for a full 3 steps before wincing. That's progress, Mr. Westcott, she remarks, arms folded. Still a limp, but your strength is returning. Ambrose wipes sweat from his brow. I have to be ready for a public return soon. No time to be stuck in bed. Garrett enters, phone in hand. News from Baron. Marina's pressing the court to finalize your disappearance status in about 2 weeks. They're also feeding the media false leads about you fleeing overseas. Ambrose's expression darkens. Then we give them 2 weeks of false confidence. Let them proceed. Meanwhile, we finalize the evidence and set the stage for my reappearance. Niall Connors scrolls through fresh data. I've got a record of Davenport's next major move. He's preparing a fake investment scheme on behalf of Westcott Construction. If he tries to transfer the funds, we'll have him dead to rights. Catherine Hayes on speakerphone chimes in. If you let him initiate the transaction, we can intercept in real time. It'll be a slam-dunk case of fraud. Ambrose nods, heart thudding. Perfect. Then, once he's caught red-handed, we call a board meeting publicly and I make my return. We'll expose him in front of everyone. Garrett smirks. Dramatic, but effective. A hush falls as the plan crystallizes. Ambrose closes his eyes briefly, picturing the betrayal at the diner, his shattered body, the humiliations he's suffered. Now all of that becomes fuel for what's to come. They think I'm weak, he murmurs. They have no idea how strong a wounded man can be when cornered. Outside the cabin, dusk settles over the tall pines, painting the sky in purples and golds. Dr. Whitfield quietly collects her medical gear, a faint approval in her eyes. She's seen the grit in Ambrose, how vengeance and justice intertwine in his recovery. Don't overdo it, she warns, but there's a subdued respect in her voice. You've come a long way from the battered man who arrived barely conscious. Ambrose thanks her, then turns to Garrett, Niall, and the digital trove of Roderick's crimes. Let him keep crowing to the press, he says grimly. When I walk into that boardroom, he'll realize just how alive and furious I am. A collective sense of anticipation fills the cabin. The trap is laid. The press is misled. Marina and Verena continue their misguided loyalty to Roderick. All that remains is for Ambrose to step back into the world with undeniable proof and deliver the final blow. Sunlight streams through the towering windows of Westcott Construction's executive conference room. Polished wood gleams under the overhead lights, reflecting the tense atmosphere. A dozen board members sit around a long oval table, murmuring among themselves. At the head, Marina Westcott and Roderick Davenport have just finished presenting a thick dossier of restructuring plans. In the front row of seats reserved for senior staff, Baron Jeffries wears an uneasy look, as though anticipating an oncoming storm. He fiddles with a pen, glancing at the empty seat near the far end of the table, Ambrose's seat. Marina adjusts her crisp white blazer, addressing the board in a poised tone. We've all seen the troubling headlines. My husband has been absent. The media suggests possible embezzlement, but we must look ahead. Under Roderick's guidance, this new structure will keep Westcott Construction profitable and stable. Roderick steps forward, exuding confidence in a tailored navy suit. His voice is smooth. Our objective is simple. Refocus on smaller, high-margin projects while phasing out the larger government contracts. They're high risk, especially given the uncertainty around Mr. Westcott. He flashes a sympathetic smile that doesn't reach his eyes. One of the board members, Diana Locke, frowns. That's a drastic shift. Ambrose spent years building relationships with federal and municipal clients. Those projects are cornerstones of our revenue. Roderick offers a contrived sigh. Unfortunately, with Ambrose missing, we can't guarantee those contracts' integrity. This restructuring is the safest path. He flicks a glance at Baron. We have prepared the documents. With your approval, we can finalize the transfer of key assets under a newly formed subsidiary. Baron feigns uncertainty, tapping the pen on the table. I'd like to wait, but maybe you're right. If Ambrose isn't returning, he flips open a contract, scanning it with exaggerated reluctance. So, if I sign these now? Marina's eyes glimmer with victory. Yes, Baron, we'll move forward. Silence presses upon the room. Then the boardroom doors swing open. A figure steps inside Ambrose Westcott, leaning on a sleek black cane. He's thinner, a hint of strain around his eyes, but his posture radiates unwavering resolve. The entire room goes still, like a held breath before thunder. Diana Locke jumps to her feet. Ambrose! My God, are you— I'm alive, he answers simply, voice carrying calm authority. The cane clicks against the floor as he moves closer to the head of the table. And I'm taking back my company. Marina's face blanches. Roderick's jaw tightens, though he tries to maintain composure. This is unexpected, he says, forcing a smile. We heard you'd— Ambrose's gaze narrows, a quiet fury smoldering. You heard wrong. Care to enlighten the board about your real intentions, Davenport? A frisson of tension crackles. Baron sets down his pen and discreetly folds his arms. Members of the board exchange startled whispers, their previous doubts about Ambrose's disappearance flooding back. Marina recovers enough to huff. Ambrose, I'm relieved you're here, but we're in the middle of an important vote. He squares his shoulders, no trace of his earlier infirmity showing except the cane he grips. Is that right? Well, I'm officially resuming my duties as CEO. A measured pause. Let's see what you've been planning in my absence. The board leans in, stunned yet intrigued. Ambrose turns his gaze to Baron, who inclines his head in silent readiness. Outside, the murmuring corridor grows quiet as staffers gather to witness the moment. It's the beginning of a showdown everyone has sensed, but never expected to witness so dramatically. Roderick recovers from his initial shock. He launches into a smooth facade, stepping in front of the board again as if trying to reclaim control. Ambrose, we're all worried. These baseless rumors about your vanishing act cause turmoil. I've been trying to keep the company stable. Ambrose raps his cane on the floor lightly. Stable or under your control? His voice is calm but razor-sharp. Because I have evidence indicating you're a con artist, Roderick, one with a string of aliases and fraud convictions. He turns to the board. If anyone doubts me, please direct your attention to the presentation I prepared. On cue, Garrett Finch, standing near the back, hits a button on a laptop. A projection flickers onto the large screen, documents linking Roderick to shell companies, suspicious offshore transactions, and even scans of old court records under a different name. Gasps ripple through the gathered executives. Marina's face goes ashen. Ambrose, what is this nonsense? She tries a shaky laugh, turning to the group. He's forging documents to discredit Roderick. He's desperate. Am I? Ambrose flicks the remote to the next slide, revealing bank statements with large withdrawals from personal accounts signed under Marina's power of attorney. Next, line after line of evidence that show funds funneling to Roderick's hidden entities. Board member Diana Locke speaks up, voice trembling with shock. These look authentic. Where did you get them, Mr. Westcott? Ambrose's gaze shifts toward Verena, who stands in a corner, arms folded. She can't meet his eyes. Let's just say I had help from loyal allies, people more trustworthy than my own family. Roderick's mask cracks. This is slander, he spits. I don't know what documents you're waving around, but they mean nothing. Ambrose arches an eyebrow. Shall we invite the district attorney to weigh in? He nods toward the door. Catherine Hayes steps forward, a commanding presence in a fitted blazer. She brandishes her own file. Mr. Davenport, Catherine says curtly, we have more than enough for a criminal investigation. Fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to embezzle. She glances at Roderick with a fierce glint. I suggest you refrain from further lies. Marina's mouth opens as if to protest, but words fail her. Verena presses a hand to her forehead, pale with sudden realization. She whispers, "Roderick, you never said any of this was illegal." He whips around, eyes blazing. "You think I cared about your father's business? We only needed him out of the way so we could carve up his assets." A murmur of shock waves through the board. Ambrose takes a single step forward, leaning on his cane. And now, the truth stands for all to see. Roderick's anger erupts. He lunges across the room, fury clouding his practiced charm. Before he can get close, Garrett sidesteps in, intercepting him with a firm grip on his arm. Roderick struggles, face twisted. "You'll regret this, Westcott." Ambrose's heart pounds with adrenaline, but his voice remains low. "I already regret ever trusting my own family enough for you to worm your way in. But I promise you, Davenport, your reign ends here." The entire board sits in stunned silence as Catherine signals an officer in plainclothes to move forward. The tension roars like a silent storm. Marina's wide eyes dart between Ambrose, the incriminating slides, and the officer pinning Roderick's arms behind his back. A single moment of triumph flares in Ambrose's chest. He's not finished yet, but the unraveling has begun. A swirl of commotion fills the corridor outside the boardroom. Some staffers appear with phones raised, capturing the drama. Others gape, uncertain whether to flee or stay. The energy feels electric, crackling with shock. Inside, Roderick Davenport stands pinned by the plainclothes officer. Catherine Hayes retrieves a warrant from her leather portfolio. "Roderick Davenport, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy to commit embezzlement, and other charges pending investigation." She rattles off his rights while he scowls, perspiration glistening on his brow. Marina's chest rises with panicked breaths. She rushes toward Ambrose. "Ambrose, listen. Tu didn't know he was a criminal. You were gone. The accident changed everything. I had to secure our finances." She clutches his arm, nails digging in. "I never meant to betray you. Please, I'm pregnant. Think about our future." Ambrose's stomach lurches, remembering how she'd left him broken at Flora's diner. He inhales, steadying the maelstrom of emotion. "Marina, do you realize how hollow that sounds? You signed over my accounts. You supported this scheme." He gently pulls free. "Pregnant or not, you made your bed. Now you face the consequences." Tears blur her mascara. I can't do this alone. We were married 15 years, Ambrose. Yet it took less than 15 seconds for you to abandon me." His tone is cool, an undercurrent of bitterness threading each word. "Now you want sympathy because you're pregnant? Or because you got caught?" Verena stands by the table, shock writ plain on her face. "Mom, you told me Dad was never coming back. You said Roderick was—" She halts, tears gathering in her eyes. "You lied, and I believed you." Marina attempts to steady herself, glancing at Verena. "We were in over our heads. Roderick kept promising—" Verena shakes her head vehemently. "Don't blame me," she blurts. "I never wanted—" She stops, overwhelmed by the entire chaotic scene. Her gaze shifts to Ambrose. "For what it's worth," she murmurs, voice trembling. "I'm sorry." Then she averts her eyes, crossing her arms protectively. A wave of conflicting emotions surges in Ambrose. Heartbreak, fury, even a faint pang of pity. He steels himself. "I tried to be a good father," he says, voice taut. "But I can't change who you choose to be." A uniformed police officer arrives, summoned by Catherine's team. Roderick is dragged out, spewing curses and threats. The boardroom's tension remains thick. Some members whisper in disbelief, others watch Ambrose with new respect or silent awe. "Ambrose," Catherine Hayes says quietly, "my job is to ensure we gather all relevant statements. We'll need yours too, but for now, Davenport's been caught red-handed." She nods to the files displayed on the screen. "This is a solid case." Ambrose inclines his head, gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you, Miss Hayes. I'll do whatever I can to see justice served." Then he turns to face the rest of the stunned board. "I know you have questions, but first, let's confirm one thing. I'm still CEO of Westcott Construction. Anyone have an objection?" No one dares speak. A subdued hush falls, except for Marina's muffled sobbing near the corner. Verena looks stricken, tears staining her cheeks, clearly unsure where she stands now that Roderick is exposed. Ambrose grips his cane, jaw set, feeling both triumph and a strange hollowness. In that moment, he understands that while the external battle may be won, the personal toll is immense and far from over. Less than an hour later, the conference room sits partly emptied. Most board members linger in the hall, shaken but relieved. Baron Jeffrey stands at Ambrose's side, scanning the final set of signatures required to nullify any unauthorized changes. The overhead lights reflect in Baron's glasses as he reads each page meticulously. "All these phony power of attorney documents have been voided," Baron murmurs, relief coloring his voice. "Roderick's pending charges guarantee the court won't uphold any transaction he initiated. You're back in command." Ambrose exhales. Despite everything, his leg throbs like a reminder of the accident that started this nightmare. He notices a hush behind him. When he turns, he sees a small cluster of journalists waiting in the corridor, cameras half raised. The rumor of his return must have leaked. "Do we confront them?" Baron asks quietly, nodding at the reporters. A flicker of resolve passes over Ambrose's face. "Yes," he says, voice stiff with determination. "I can't hide anymore." Outside the building, a flurry of microphones and flashing lights greets him. He rests both hands on his cane, posture proud against the crisp afternoon sky. Reporters jostle for position. One with a press badge steps forward. "Mr. Westcott, is it true you've been implicated in embezzlement? Were you on the run?" Ambrose's gaze flicks across the crowd. He notices cameras from 3 major networks. "I was never on the run. I was seriously injured in a car accident. Certain individuals took advantage of my condition to spin a false narrative. They nearly succeeded in discrediting me." He clears his throat. "But I'm here to set the record straight." More questions erupt. "Is Roderick Davenport under arrest? Did your wife conspire with him?" Ambrose lifts a hand. "Yes, Mr. Davenport was just arrested in a board meeting with evidence of fraud. My wife and daughter participated, though the full extent is still under investigation. Legal proceedings will handle that." He meets the cameras, voice steady. "For now, I want to assure all clients, employees, and partners of Westcott Construction that I remain the CEO. We will continue operating ethically and honorably as we always have." From the building's glass doors, Marina emerges hesitantly, tears streaking her face. Verena stands behind her, looking lost. At the sight of them, the reporters press closer, curious for a dramatic confrontation. Marina tries to speak, words lost in the crowd's chaos. Ambrose's eyes are cold as he regards her. In that moment, the love he once felt is overshadowed by betrayal's sting, replaced with a numb ache. He offers her no public kindness, simply turning back to the cameras. "I have no further comment." An uneasy hush falls. Even the reporters sense the raw heartbreak that lingers in the air. Baron steps in, guiding Ambrose away from the throng, back into the lobby. The automatic doors swoosh shut, muting the clamoring press. Inside, Ambrose closes his eyes briefly, inhaling the familiar scent of polished marble and the faint hum of overhead lights. He won the public battle, reclaiming his position. Yet a hollowness gnaws at him, a realization that the family he fought to protect has essentially crumbled. Baron touches his arm gently. "You did it, Ambrose. The company is yours again." Ambrose nods, looking out the tall lobby windows. "I've won the war," he murmurs, voice hollow. "But I lost my family in the process." The cane presses into the polished floor, a subtle echo of his lingering injuries. A final chord of resolution and emptiness settles over him. He knows there's still more to do: legal follow-ups, staff reassurances, reorganizing the leadership. But for this moment, he allows himself a brittle sense of triumph, overshadowed by grief. As he gazes at the bustling street beyond the glass, he wonders if this victory, paid with so many pieces of his heart, was worth it. His quiet reflection is interrupted by a ringing phone. Baron checks the caller ID, Catherine Hayes. They'll discuss next steps, more consequences for Marina and Verena, the official statements to law enforcement. Ambrose adjusts his grip on the cane. "Let's handle it," he says softly. And with that, he limps forward into the lobby's vast hallway, simultaneously a conqueror and a man who's lost everything he once cherished. Several weeks after the dramatic boardroom confrontation, the district attorney's office finalizes its case against Roderick Davenport. In a bright, High-ceilinged courtroom downtown, Roderick stands at the defendant's table, looking far less confident than before. Gone is his tailored navy suit, replaced by a plain blazer that can't hide the strain in his posture. Catherine Hayes, the DA, presents damning evidence: bank statements, shell company registrations, statements from defrauded clients. Occasionally, Roderick glances over his shoulder, as though hoping someone might still rescue him. But no sympathetic faces remain in the gallery. His once gleaming social circle has evaporated overnight. At the back of the courtroom, Ambrose Westcott observes quietly, leaning on his cane less and less these days. The bruises and broken bones have healed substantially. Beside him sits Garrett Finch, arms folded, satisfaction barely hidden. The judge pronounces a preliminary sentence. Roderick will serve 20-30 years, pending final details. After the gavel's echo fades, Ambrose exhales a tense breath. Justice, or at least the legal form of it, has caught up to Roderick. Outside, beneath the courthouse's stone pillars, a cluster of reporters swarm for post-trial interviews. Ambrose fields a few questions, stating calmly, "This outcome ensures no one else falls victim to Davenport's schemes. My company and I are focused on rebuilding and moving forward." Meanwhile, Marina Westcott stands off to one side, wearing a coat that's seen better days. The divorce settlement left her with only minimal assets after Ambrose's legal team invalidated the fraudulent transfers. She meets Ambrose's eyes across the pavement, but he offers no greeting, just a solemn nod. Marina's gaze flicks downward. Her once pristine nails are chipped, her hair lacking its usual salon gloss. Life has changed drastically for her. Her own attorneys confirmed she lost the Westcott mansion and most of the luxuries she treasured. Standing with her is Verena, arms wrapped around herself for warmth. The teen's earlier arrogance is gone, replaced by uncertainty and something akin to regret. Once the reporters disperse, Marina approaches timidly. "Ambrose," she begins, voice trembling. It's official. I have nowhere to stay." "My sister offered a spare room, but—" Ambrose's expression remains impassive. She sighs, swallowing a plea she can't bring herself to voice. Then he gently shifts his cane and turns away. There is no malice in his demeanor, only a cold acceptance. Verena hovers, wanting to say something but apparently at a loss for words. At last, she manages, "Dad." A flicker of pain crosses her face at using that word. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize how twisted it all was." Ambrose's jaw tightens. He gives the slightest nod but doesn't speak, letting the silence convey what words cannot. And in that silence, Marina and Verena understand they stand on the far side of a chasm that might never be bridged. Back at Westcott Construction headquarters, the once tense atmosphere has lightened. The false accusations of embezzlement are cleared, the media frenzy subsiding. Ambrose, now fully reinstated as CEO, calls a press conference in a newly refurbished lobby. Sunlight spills across polished floors and lush greenery arranged by the entrance. Reporters gather, expecting announcements about new projects. Instead, Ambrose stands behind a podium, flanked by Baron Jeffries and Flora Addison, who looks slightly nervous in her formal jacket. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ambrose begins, voice steady, "recent events showed how easily people can be deceived and left vulnerable. I'm here to introduce the Phoenix Foundation, an initiative dedicated to helping victims of financial predators rebuild their lives." Flashes from camera phones and murmurs of interest ripple through the crowd. Ambrose explains that the foundation will provide legal, financial, and emotional support to those who have suffered similar betrayals. It's named Phoenix because it symbolizes rebirth from the ashes of loss, he adds quietly, hinting at his own resurgence. Flora steps up, cheeks flushed but eyes determined. "I'll be serving as Director of Community Outreach," she says. "We want to ensure no one faces what Ambrose went through without support." A mild applause follows. Ambrose notices Garrett near the back, nodding approval. Standing alongside them is Catherine Hayes, who's helped formalize the legal structure for the foundation. Catherine addresses the reporters, too. This foundation isn't just about money. It's about preventing fraud, raising awareness, and guiding victims to resources. Later, as the press files out, Baron approaches Ambrose with a grin. "So this is your next big project?" Ambrose glances up at the tinted skylight, through which the midday sun glows. Part of it. Westcott Construction is also expanding into a new development, more affordable housing in some underprivileged neighborhoods. We'll do well by doing good. He moves on with a slight limp cane left behind in his office more often these days. Staff members greet him with genuine respect. The turbulence is over, replaced by renewed purpose. He can feel the difference, as though the entire building breathes relief and progress. Later that week, Ambrose sits in his private office, finishing a call regarding a large government-backed construction bid. He's distracted by an unexpected envelope on his desk, delivered by a courier. The handwriting on the front is instantly recognizable. Marina Westcott. Inside is a letter, neatly typed. She writes about her dwindling funds, the baby she carries, and her precarious living situation. A subtle plea for help threads through every paragraph. She mentions the possibility of returning to her hometown, but how it offers no opportunities. She doesn't ask for forgiveness outright, but the longing is palpable. Ambrose sets the letter aside, eyes lingering on it. Despite his anger and the heartbreak, he can't ignore the memory of once believing they shared a life together. After a long moment, he slips the letter into a drawer. He picks up his phone, dials a contact at a local hospital network. "This is Ambrose Westcott. I'd like to cover the medical expenses for," he hesitates, "someone who's fallen on hard times. Confidentially, please." He hangs up, bitterness and relief mingling in his chest. He won't open his door to Marina again, but he can't condemn the unborn child. A secret gesture, nothing more. Let her interpret it how she will. Meanwhile, Verena struggles under a new reality. Former friends have distanced themselves, gossip swirling about her involvement with Roderick. She scrapes together nights on a friend's couch. One afternoon, she decides to apply for community college, anything to start fresh. But the tuition is daunting, and she lacks a stable support system. To her surprise, she receives an acceptance letter and an additional envelope, a fully funded scholarship from the Phoenix Foundation. She stares at the document in disbelief. She knows exactly who's behind the foundation. Though it's labeled anonymous, the signature of the director is Flora Addison. Verena's throat tightens, recalling how Flora found Ambrose that terrible day at the diner. She kneels on the small bed in her friend's spare room, tears of humiliation and gratitude slipping down her cheeks. She might never restore the bond with Ambrose, but he's given her a glimmer of hope and a path forward. A crisp autumn wind rustles the sign of Flora's diner, the place where everything fell apart for Ambrose Westcott, and, ironically, where everything began again. Late afternoon sunlight gilds the gravel parking lot. Ambrose steps out of a sleek sedan, no cane in hand, though he still moves with a slight limp. Inside the diner, cozy warmth envelops him, the aroma of coffee, the hum of light conversation. A few customers glance over, recognizing him as the man once abandoned here, but they say nothing. Flora Addison stands behind the counter, sorting receipts for the day. She brightens at the sight of him, wiping her hands on an apron. "Ambrose," she greets warmly. "Haven't seen you in a while." He offers a subdued smile. "Thought it was time I came back. I owed you a proper thank you." She waves off the formality. "You already made me part of Phoenix Foundation. I'm the one in your debt," she jokes, but her eyes shine with earnestness. "Besides, I was just doing what was right." They share a quiet moment, recalling how she'd served as the first thread of kindness amid his darkest betrayal. Ambrose sets a small envelope on the counter. "A little donation for the diner improvements, or however you see fit." He glances around at the new lighting and reupholstered booths, results of the community support she's helped foster. Flora nods, gratitude in her smile. "You going to stay for coffee?" Ambrose hesitates, then shakes his head slowly. "Not this time." Another project beckons. He glances out the window, imagining the next steps in his plan to build affordable housing. A sense of quiet anticipation fills his chest. This time, his ambition is driven not by pure profit or proving himself, but by the desire to create something that outlasts betrayal. Stepping outside, he breathes in the crisp air. The sky glows a soft gold, shadows lengthening across the asphalt. He closes his eyes briefly, remembering the day Verena and Marina took his wallet, phone, and dignity left him, physically and emotionally shattered. Now, as he opens the car door, he reflects on how far he's come. The roads ahead are still uncertain, but they no longer frighten him. He has faced the worst heartbreak, endured physical agony, and lost a family he once believed in wholeheartedly, and he survived. Starting the engine, he casts one last look at Flora's diner, its neon sign humming faintly. The place that marked his lowest point now feels like the beginning of a journey. In that sense, he isn't returning to his old life. He's forging a new one, free of illusions. He eases onto the highway, the setting sun painting the horizon in hues of pink and orange. The reflection of his own determined gaze glimmers in the rearview mirror, and as the diner recedes in the distance, so do the ghosts of betrayal. Ambrose Westcott drives forward, resolute, choosing to build something greater than the sum of past regrets.